Is that a gavel?
Yeah, because this is First Stop News, and we're now in session. Oh, we're talking about the Supreme Court. Forgot that line.
Hi, we hope you had a fabulous week. Here's what we're talking about today. First, the Supreme Court. What is it? The decisions they made this year and some changes that may be happening to it. Oh, and Vice President Harris's choice for her running mate.
We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court. That's this building and what goes on inside it. For our question of the day, do you know how many Supreme Court justices there are?
No, but I definitely should.
Don't worry, I'm going to tell you. Do you want to take a guess? I'll give you some choices.
Okay, give me choices.
6, 9, or 12.
Based on the invisible numbers you gave me, I'm going to have to select 9.
That is correct. You got it. Now, there are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, but one of them is Chief Justice, and then there's 8 Associate Justices as well.
This is John Roberts. He's the 17th Chief Justice and has been since 2005. The other justices have been on the court for different amounts of time and were each appointed by different presidents. Once on the court, the justices can stay for the rest of their career. But that might change. We'll circle back to that later.
Before we talk more about the Supreme Court, let's talk about this. Vice President Kamala Harris has announced her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
I couldn't be prouder to be on this ticket and to help Vice President Harris become what we all know is very, very good for us to think about. Next President of the United States of America.
As a reminder, if you need one, last month, President Biden dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed Harris as the Democratic candidate to run against former President Donald Trump. And now she's adding a new face to the campaign. Walz is a 60-year-old former congressman. Before getting into politics, he was a teacher and served in the Army National Guard.
Every day in the White House, I'll have Vice President Harris's back. Every single day. And we'll have yours.
Kelsey, was this the pick everyone saw coming?
Larry, no, it actually wasn't. You see, Minnesota isn't a huge battleground state in this election. But in the past few weeks, Walz has been pretty vocal about why he doesn't think former President Donald Trump is the best choice.
Have you ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior. And I don't think you call it anything else.
Well, what are some things he's done as governor?
I'm happy you asked. As governor, he signed a bill that gives free breakfast and lunch to students at any school in the state. And he's also been a big supporter of helping families by implementing paid family and medical leave.
No one should have to make a decision between a paycheck and taking a child to the doctor.
Harris formally became the nominee, and it will all become official at the Democratic National Convention, which starts on August 19th.
The Supreme Court came out with a lot of decisions on some really important issues before their annual 3-month break. We talked to Justin Jackson, a lawyer in New York, about the court, how it works, and some of the latest rulings.
So the Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court of the judicial branch. There are 3 branches of government. The judicial branch interprets the laws, the legislative writes them, and the executive, well, they enforce the law.
So how does a case get to the Supreme Court? There are a few different ways, but the most common is if someone isn't happy with the ruling from a lower court, like in your city or state. They petition for the Supreme Court to hear it. Or if a case deals with the Constitution, it will also be heard by the Supreme Court.
Every year, the court is asked to hear thousands of cases, and they choose about 100. And the decisions they make about those cases create a precedent in the US, which basically means it's an example for the rest of the country on how it should respond to the same issues. Every year at the end of June, a lot of important decisions all come out at once. So why is this the case?
The most important cases take a bunch of time to decide. So that's why it kind of crams these decisions all into one period, because it takes a while to, of course, decide and evaluate and analyze these very, very, very important cases. So they save the best for last.
Here are a few decisions that the court ruled on in 2024. First up, social media. Over the past few years, Texas and Florida have passed laws trying to limit how much social platforms like TikTok and Facebook can control users' content. The states say people should be able to post what they want without being edited by a platform. The platforms say they have the right to block, remove, or flag anything they don't think is appropriate or helpful.
The issue in that case is whether the First Amendment even applies to social media moderation. And why that is so important is because the First Amendment deals with free speech.
Instead of choosing a side, the Supreme Court actually sent this case back to a lower court, which means they need more research and context to make a clear ruling.
Another big decision was about the homeless population in the US. This case specifically was about homeless camps set up in Oregon and whether or not a city can punish people for sleeping outside if they have nowhere else to go. The Supreme Court ruled that cities do have the power to ban these camps and can punish people for sleeping outside. The ruling affects the homeless across the country. In fact, the governor of California has already ordered government officials to start clearing out tents across the state because of the ruling.
And one of the most watched decisions was about presidential immunity. In 2023, Trump was indicted, which means he was charged with doing something against the law. He lost in 2020 to Biden, but refused to accept the result and urged his supporters to do the same. A special investigation found that he knowingly tricked the United States when he tried to change the election results.
Trump's legal team said he should have immunity from these charges since he was president at the time. Immunity means having protection from something.
In a 6-3 ruling, the court said that presidents do have immunity from criminal prosecution for acts taken in office, but not for unofficial acts. They also sent the original case back to the lower court to figure out when and if Trump could be on trial for this.
It's very, very unlikely that then Trump will actually be prosecuted before the November election. And at that point, if he's elected president of the United States, he can then use that as a shield to say, you can't come after me at all.
In response to the ruling, President Biden endorsed a constitutional amendment that would eliminate presidential immunity for crimes committed while in office.
I share our founders' belief that the president must answer to the law. The president is accountable in the exercise of the great power of the presidency. We're a nation of laws, not kings and dictators.
This still has yet to get approved by Congress. The Supreme Court comes back in session in October with a new slate of cases.
Biden wants to work with Congress to not only get that constitutional amendment passed on presidential immunity, but he also wants a series of reforms to the Supreme Court.
I believe we should have term limits for Supreme Court justices in the United States as well.
Supreme Court justices are appointed for life. This is different from presidents who can only hold 2 terms or 8 years. And Biden wants the life appointment for justices to end. Listen to this.
I believe the best structure is the 18-year term limit.
Most justices serve an average of 28 years on the court. It's been that way since about 1970. They're appointed by a president only when there's an opening. In the past 8 years, 3 justices were nominated by Trump and 1 by Biden.
Term limits would help ensure that the court membership changes with some regularity, reduce the chance that any single presidency imposes undue influence in generations to come.
The first justices who would be affected by this: first, Clarence Thomas, who has been on the court for nearly 33 years. Also, Justice John Roberts. He's been on there for 19 years. And Samuel Alito has served for 18 years.
Biden also wants to pass a new ethics code that would require, for example, that justices step back from cases where they have a conflict of interest or where their personal interests could compromise their judgment. In the past couple of years, it's been reported that some have acted against the existing ethics code for justices. Justice Kagan has supported the idea of a beefed-up ethics code. Biden is trying to get this passed before he leaves office, but who knows if it'll pass?
Who knows?
We'll keep watching for it.
So, we want to know, do you have any questions about how our legal system works? Let us know, as always, through hi@firststopnews.com. And Larry opened it, so Larry, close it away.
You are hereby sentenced to like and subscribe to this video, and have a great week. First Stop News dismissed.
Lifetime sentence to First Stop News.
It's nice, right?
It is.